Good morning. My name is Valarie Crocker. I was born March 10th, 1954 in Queens, New York. After I was born in Brooklyn, Queens, New York, in a Navy base. But then when I was 2 years old, we went to Panama. We went there for 3 years, and then can't remember where we went from there. But then we ended up going back when I was 16. So all in all, I spent about 8 years of my life in Panama. After I enlisted, I left. Like a lot of people enlist and they go 6 months later or something. But when I enlisted, I was like gone shortly there. I don't know how long, but it was like right after I enlisted. And I went to Orlando for boot camp, from Panama to Orlando. I did 8 weeks of training, and then I originally was going to be a nurse. I went in to be a hospital corpsman.
Do you recall any instructors in your in training camp?
I can't remember her name, but I really liked her. She was, although, I don't really remember her name, but I remember she wasn't like the kind of drill instructors that I would have imagined.
Yeah.
I mean, she wasn't, screaming in your face and all that. I mean, she was just I think I had a very good drill instructor.
What were some of the memories that you had, some of the experiences that you had when you were there?
I fell in love, and I was in a bar, and so I met, actually I'm still friends with this fella. He's still on my Facebook, and it's really, he was my first love. He was Army and I was Navy, and we ended up moving in together, and we had a cute little cottage on Virginia Beach, and so that was pretty cool. I mean, and I think it's ironic that 40 years later, he's still my love of my life. I mean, even though I was married 27 years, I still kept in contact with this fellow. I was 18, he was 20, and so doesn't look like he did when he was 20, but he's, yeah, I was 18, and then I got out of the Navy when I was 20. And like I said, in Panama, there was just all these guys. I mean, it was loaded with military bases, and I was 18. So, when I got there, okay, you had all these sailors that were also being trained, and then also the women. Well, when you were marching, you had to have your eyes straight ahead, and we weren't supposed to, like if we passed some men, we weren't supposed to turn. Well, you're 18, you're gonna wanna look.
Right.
And so we would get in trouble if, we didn't have our eyes straight ahead, because the men were called trees. And so when it came to Liberty time to go to Disney World, which had just opened, that's where we were going to do our Liberty from boot camp. So we went on, we were on a bus, and it was full of guys and the women and everything. Well, there was this one fella that was trying to talk to me, and I ignored him because I'm thinking, you're a tree, I'm not supposed to talk to you. Right. And he kind of said something like, gosh, you're being rude, and I'm like, oh, that's right, I can talk to you. I'm on Liberty. So it was, the longer we went in, the more freedoms we got. But that was kind of funny, was the fact that I was like conditioned to ignore men.
Right.
One bad time I had, which wasn't really a bad time, but we had a really bad storm there, and I had bought a car, and it flooded so bad that the rain went completely covered the steering wheel. I mean, it was just flooded.
Inside the car?
Yeah, it was just, it totally flooded. And so because I didn't know anything about cars, I ended up selling my car. It wouldn't start. So I ended up selling my car for $25 to a chief. And he went and got a new starter and solenoid, and the car was fine.
Wow.
But apparently the water ruined the starter and the solenoid. I didn't know that. But that was the one bad thing that happened to me.
Was there any adapting from your social life? Was that something that changed once you went into the military?
Yes. The one thing that I had to do, which is kind of what I had to do when I came here, was I'm used to having, I was used to having my own room and all of that stuff. And I was also used to having Mom and dad did everything for me, and I didn't have to use a checkbook. I was a kid. So when I went in the military, all of a sudden I am in a barracks, and the first barracks that I went into was beds, bunk beds, all like whole bunches of bunk beds. And then you go to the bathroom, and now privacy is not something you have. Everything's open bay. And so that was kind of hard to, you've got all these sinks and everything, it's all open. And so, even if you showered or did anything, you're just right next to somebody. And that was something I had to get over, was there's no privacy. You really didn't see a lot. Like when I was watching TV, they kept a lot from us, and you really didn't know about a lot until after the fact, when things started coming out. And one thing that really bothers me and other Vietnam veterans is when our guys came home, they were criticized as baby killers. They were really criticized. And today, a guy comes home and he's a hero. And I think anybody that signs the paper, even like myself, whether you go to combat or not, I signed on the paper that I would, and that was my life, and that's what you do. It's God and country. I loved being in the military. I loved being a military daughter. I loved being a military wife, and I believe in our young men and our young women out there that are fighting for us today. And I think every one of them's a hero. We need people to serve. Whether you serve for 6 months or 20 years, as long as, and you don't necessarily have to serve active duty if you can serve like civil service or, any other way. It's just as long as you love your country. That's the main thing, is to love your country and believe in it. I think we're the greatest country out there. It's a great country.
All right.